This is our agenda. I already put in the full presentation downloadable as a PDF in the handout section, so you can download it. And we will start with why Wi-Fi 6. Hopefully everybody already knows, but we have an increasing demand in high density situations, more data, and Wi-Fi 6 is the best choice for that. Wi-Fi 6 has a number of new features which prevent latency. It also increases capacity by a bit compared to AC, and even more against N, of course. We have something called BSS coloring, which will enable a better use of the same channel. And we also have, for devices that sleep, we have something that's called a target wake up time that will enable the devices to immediately connect and communicate with the AP when they wake up and then go to sleep again, which will save energy. So in the past, we were always talking about theoretical peak speed between a client and an AP. But at the moment, because we have multiple APs and lots of clients, it's more like the overall capacity of all your APs put together, which is more optimal on using AX than it was with the previous ones. So how do we achieve this? Well, first, the AX features are not just on the 5 gigahertz like with AC, but also on the 2.4 gigahertz. So you can leverage it on both bands. And if it's a triple band device, of course, on all the also on the 6 gigahertz. Because it went from 256 QM to 1024, it increases the capacity, and that you will see back in the data rates will be on average something like 25% faster. Well, it depends a little bit on how you calculate. It's 33% faster compared to from AC to AX, or 25% if you look at it from the AX speed. And additionally, you will also see it in your max speed if you really use a lot of spatial streams, that you will have a capacity of almost 10 gigabits. But let's be honest, there are very few devices which will support 8 spatial streams for now. 4 spatial streams is sort of the maximum at the moment. So you will top out nearly at 5 gigabits in most cases. And then the other thing is that where for AC you only have downlink multi-user MIMO, for AX it works both ways, which is very nice for especially high density environments. Then up to the products. First, we'll start off with our ECW215. You have to see this as an ECW115 on steroids. It has, well, all the features mentioned before as a bonus, all the AX, the nice AX stuff. Of course, it supports AP modes and also mesh modes, which they can do at the same time, like most, if not all, of our cloud APs. It has a onboard switch, which offers VLAN support. yeah, well, you can talk about the form factor, but it's the same or almost the same as all the competing devices. And you can even connect and power a PoE device from the port, the PSE port on the device. So you can power a VoIP phone or something like that if you want. Then you have the Cloud2Go app, which is common to all our cloud devices, and the management by our cloud. So it has exactly the same housing as our ECW 115. And like you can see, the PoE in can come from the back, or it can come from the side, and there is a PoE out port. If you want to use the PoE power out port, the PoE in needs to be AT, or you will not have it. And PC out is probably AF. So you can mount it several ways. You can mount it on the ceiling. You can mount it on the side, which is a little bit hidden behind me, on a plate, or directly on a I don't exactly know how these installation boxes are called, but anyway, those are inside the wall, and we can implement these in several scenarios. Small office, home office, small medium business, urban or hospitality, retail change source. And so if you want to use it in a budget hotel, you can put in the APs in the hall. This is also possible in other hospitality solutions like adult care homes and stuff like that. Or you can put it, deploy it in each room. And this is more or less what our ECW 115 and 215 are intended for, in-room use. So this is possible, but it will probably work a little bit less well than if you use a 220 ECW 220 or 230 in the hallways. So you have all those nice features like guest Wi-Fi, customized authentication pages and stuff like that. So the differences between the 115 and the 215 are mainly that it's from AC Wave 2 to AX. And the other thing that you need to note, well, it's not really important for the 2.4 gigahertz that the max power has increased a little bit, but it is important for the 5 gigahertz, because before we would be stuck at 17 plus 5 is the ERP of 22 dBm, and now it will be slightly higher. It will be 25 dBm. So on the 5 gigahertz, we can have a little bit more coverage than before. And if you use these as usual, this will also increase the coverage of your 2.4 gigahertz a little bit. So yeah, and then of course the PoE out that it has is also a very interesting thing. In that case, the maximum power consumption will be, of course, a little bit higher than this, because this is only the power consumption of the device itself. If it's powering something, that should also be included here. So the port on the switch will have a larger consumption. We have created a competitive comparison between our device and some other devices. And from what I can tell, our pricing will be pretty competitive with most, if not all, of those devices. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the question pane. So next, the other device we want to talk about is the ECW270, which is an outdoor device. As you can see, it has 8 antennas, and even by that you can already know that it will be a 4x4 MIMO device. You can see the interesting way the antennas have been laid out, 5 at the top and 3 at the bottom, which is probably because of the 2 entries for cables, or actually 1 entry for the PoE cable and 1 exit for a PoE out on the device. So it's basically ECW230 with external antennas for outdoor. Again, the same nice AX stuff, Wi-Fi 6 stuff. The most important thing here to note is that it has a wider operation range than indoor devices, from -20 to +65, which doesn't cover everything, but it will cover a lot. And it has a IP68 rated enclosure. And as far as I know, IP68 is the highest rating you can get for this. Although it says harsh outdoor use, there are some indoor uses that are also pretty harsh. Either because it's indoor is very humid. That is usually not good for APs, especially not for indoor APs. It can also be very cold, like in cold stores. In that case, you would not want to put in a indoor device, but you would want to put in a outdoor device like this. So it has 802.3 BT or AT in, or you can do passive PoE in. And if you have a BT in, it will do AT or AF out on the second port. I'm not sure which one will be the first port or second port, but anyway, one port BT in, the other port you can use to power something like a camera, for instance, or maybe even another AP if you want to. Back to the 215, I see a question about the number of Ethernet ports. As far as I know, there are no plans at the moment for more Ethernet ports than the 3 that are already in. So if you use the one on the back plate, you have 2 ports to use for other stuff. Okay, and I'm back to our 270. So again, Cloud2Go, we're an EnGenius cloud, like all our cloud devices. So IP68, harsh environment. Note that the -20 that we state, usually those are like cold boot temperatures. Once the device is running, it can probably get a little bit, or maybe even a lot colder, because the heat the device is producing by itself. But the -20, that's something that you should note as if you want to boot the device, then it needs to be something around -20, and you may have a few degrees of it may be something like -21 or -22, and it will also work. But if you go much lower than that, it will probably not boot. If it's already running, it's a different story. So also the housing is made from some stuff that is UV resistance, so that the housing will not go bad. So you have your external antennas. Interestingly enough, these antennas will have a N-type interface. So it will be the thicker. I don't have an example, but it's not like this one. It will be the thicker one. So the top cover is UV light certified plastic. It will have a few LED indicators, and the bottom cover is an aluminum heatsink. And so one of the ports will be input, and the other one will be a optional output. So the verticals, we're thinking of high density stadiums where there's a lot of interference and a lot of devices that can appear. Again, urban hospitality hotspots, outdoor, because yeah, this is an outdoor device on a campus. Again, mostly outdoor. And we have some pretty layout pictures for this. So 4K streaming with a mesh between the devices. Wi-Fi hotspots on a camping site. Smart campus. Again, similar things. And also, if you want to do surveillance with cameras, you can do that. And note that because of the PC out, you can put on the PoE cameras directly to it. Again, we have a competitive comparison. In this case, I know a little bit less of the pricing, but again, I expect that we will be at least competitive with the high brands, and some of our other competitors do not have competing devices in this of this type. So this is why you do not see a TP-Link or a D-Link here. It's mostly companies like Aruba, Arucas, Cisco Meraki that have competing products. I didn't mention it before, but I like to note that our device has a 2.5 gigabits Ethernet port, so you will be able to move the 5 gigabits. You will be able to move a lot of the gigabits that it could theoretically pass. Just for comparison, I put an overview of all our AX models, AX cloud models that we currently have. Just if we want to check it. And before I go on with the next, I see another question. I'm not sure about Adroam certification. I have to check. I wasn't aware there was such a thing as Adroam certification. However, I have no reason to assume that our devices will not work with Adroam, because Adroam is not more than the usual WPA enterprise in settings, which will then communicate with the university's radio servers, or actually the Adroam university service. If this comes up, I'm sure we can make it happen. Okay, about the meshing that you may want to do. It depends a lot on the situation. It also depends a lot. So it depends on the environment. If the environment is noisy, RF radio frequency noisy, you will need to put stuff closer together. That's one thing. Also, if there is a lot of stuff in between, you will need to get it closer. And the last thing is, it depends on the amount of speed throughput that you want. If you want, if throughput is not an issue, then you can put them much farther apart than when you have um, um, than when you want a minimum of, say, 100 megabits throughput on your mesh. The exact availability of the ECW 215 and 270, I do not know. It will probably be somewhere between the end of the end of the Q2 or sometime during, hopefully, the beginning of Q3. Maybe a little bit earlier, but something like that. So there are at least a month or two away, I think. So because these are all cloud devices, I need to say something about our cloud solutions. Both ECW 270 and 215 are supported by the cloud, which makes centralized network management much easier. It's very scalable, and we have the Cloud2Go app, which you can use to monitor your network or networks and get alerts. And if you get an alert, take some action. The cloud also has some new features. One of those is the enhancements to the dynamic channel selection, or DCS. So we have added interval and schedule of DCS. And well, the best thing to probably choose is the scheduling and make it happen at moments that are convenient, like there are not too many or no clients connected. Why do you want to do this? Well, or maybe I should answer first, what is DCS, or what does dynamic channel selection do for you? Dynamic channel selection will move the channel on which the AP is operating to another channel if the AP discovers that there is something not optimal on that channel. Like if there's RF interference, or maybe there's another AP too close by on the same channel or overlapping channel. And then as a result of that, it will move from that channel to another channel if you have dynamic channel selection enabled. However, if this happens every 5 minutes, then your clients will disconnect every 5 minutes, and you do not want to have that. So that's the reason why you can set up the interval, or even better, a schedule, like doing it at midnight and maybe 6 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and not much more often than that. In AirGuard, the even twin detection has an enhancement, at least in what it is showing. It will show both the attacker SSID and the victimized SSID. So this is the situation that a attacker uses the same MAC address or BSSID as your own IP, and when it detects this, it will tell you which is the ESSID or network name of the AP, and it will tell which ESSID or network name the attacker was using. And again, AirGuard is Pro feature, and it's only supported if you're using our security APs, the ECW220S or ECW230S. Another thing they added is Ethernet over generic routing encapsulation, or EO gray. You can build a gray tunnel between an AP and a remote site. And those remote sites would typically be cloud-based security as a service like Zscaler or central managed access gateway like Benu. All the traffic on the SSID that's configured like this will be bridged through an encrypted tunnel to the TGW or remote tunnel gateway, and that will make the connected client send DHCP requests not to the AP. The AP will just pass it on to the tunnel gateway on the other side to get an IP address. It will also support the DHCP option 82, which will enable the AP to provide or to add some information to the DHCP message. So you get the DHCP request from the client, and then the AP will insert some additional information using DHCP option 82, and that additional information can be used by the DHCP server to supply the client with a IP address. So I have you can configure something with the circuit ID and also with the remote ID. You can select what information will be included for use by the DHCP server. We do not have a gateway which supports this ourselves. So you have to look elsewhere, like Zscaler or Benu, to have this. But because this is a bridged thing, all the traffic that is connecting to the SSID will go to the other side, which makes it a pretty transparent solution. So we have our diagnostic tools. I don't know how often you have seen these, but these are also nice with the speed test, the pings that you can do, see which channels are in use, do trace routes, stuff like that. And then lastly, I think I want to say something about the perfect switches for the ECW270 APs, but actually for any of our APs, those would be our multi-gigabit switches, which have PoE ports, and 1/3 of the ports are 2.5 gigabits, which is exactly what you need for the ECW270s. And the other ports are 1 gigabits, which you can use for the ECW215 or any of the other APs that have 1 gigabit ports. So in the application for these switches, you can use your SFPs to go up to your aggregation switches, connect your servers also through SFPs, connect your APs like the ECW270 and the other ones that need 2.5 gigabit directly, but also the ones that also just need 1 gigabit to the 1 gigabit ports and wired. There are lots of workstations now with 2.5 gigabit ports. Connect them to the 2.5 gigabit connections. Also NASes with those types of ports. And the other stuff, 1 gigabit workstations, and of course IP phones, stuff like that, you can connect to your 1 gigabit ports. So I had a few questions that I already answered. Maybe anybody has more questions about this? So I do not see any additional questions. If you have any technical questions about these or other products, you can also always send them to support@engeniusnetworks.eu. If you have any sales questions, contact your salesperson or sales@engeniusnetworks.eu. And in 2 weeks' time, Alessandro will do a tech talk about cloud network optimization. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions, so I will thank you a lot for joining this webinar, and see you all in 2 weeks' time.